Hello, I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to cultural differences. This past week I sat down with the Beasleys, James and Millie, to talk about some of those differences. And because they was so well planned, they are simultaneously doing another part to this video on their channel, and I will link to that in the end slide at the end. And if you've not seen them react to my videos, you'll want to address that right after this video and theirs. Also, if you're not subscribed to my channel, do that now. Without further ado, let's talk about 6 cultural differences between Britain and the United States. It's great to have you both on my show, and we're going to start off by talking about toilets. Seems appropriate, right? I think. There are quite a lot of differences, I think, in how Brits and Americans sort of operate around toilets, and one of those is in Britain, we often pay to use a public loo. What is that all about, guys?
It's a weird one. It is true. But it's also a little bit of a misconception as well, isn't it? It's like...
Yeah, it's not every public toilet. So, like, we have public toilets that you can go to. I mean, they aren't nice.
Yeah.
But you don't have to pay. But even at events and things like that, festivals, you know, it's like 50p, a pound.
Train stations are quite bad for it. Again, I don't know if you experienced that, Lawrence. But it's so frustrating. You need the toilet. Especially nowadays. No change on it. Who has change?
No.
And it's like 20p.
So they haven't introduced like a credit card system or anything like that, or pay by check on your way in?
Not yet.
Be weird, wouldn't it?
Not that we know of.
It's interesting, but you mentioned there that it's somewhat of a misconception, and I hear you on that, because I think that a lot of Americans who perhaps visit the UK have maybe been to London, right? And you'll often find these things in London, so therefore it seems like they are pervasive throughout the entire country. But I'm with you on that. I think that most public loos that I'd go to in Grimsby don't have a pay system of any kind. I think the reason that Americans are confused by it is that you just don't really see that here in the land of the free. Again, it would be weird if you suddenly had to hand over 10 cents just to go and spend a penny. That's a euphemism.
It's weird.
Because where do they expect you to do it? You know, you can't do it on the street. You need the toilet. There's a toilet there.
Exactly.
But you do make a good point. I think it is London-based mainly, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is the big city where they can get the money out of the tourists, and unfortunately that's where they make the money from the toilets.
I think that is the main thing,
you know.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it always pays to carry a flask. Just in case. Just in case. No, don't
Unless you're female, then it's not as easy.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I am speaking on behalf only of men. But speaking of toilets, another sort of vast difference, I think, is that when you go into a public loo in Britain, you do feel like it's a private affair. Nobody can really see what you're doing. But in America, you have that thing, right? This is something I experienced when I first moved here, quite unsettling at first, where you have a gap in the door, and in your head, in your irrational mind, you're thinking, someone's watching me now. When you visited New York City, did you get to experience that?
So the first time I noticed that was at the JFK airport, and I popped in to go to the toilet, and I remember like just closing the door, and I had to keep like, I think I opened and closed it a few times. I was like, surely this isn't the gap.
Yeah.
Like, I opened, like, just to make sure that I had closed the door properly. And when you're sat on the toilet, it's kind of like, I don't know, I found myself peering to the side of it, so I wasn't in view. It was, a weird experience.
I didn't need to actually go into a cubicle when I was in New York, so I never experienced it, but it sounds very strange. I don't want to be in that situation.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And it's like how when we were talking on your channel about sales tax, how at first it's the weirdest thing. Over time, I've just gotten used to it and I don't think about it because there's never been an actual experience of somebody just standing at the door, you know, just creeping on me.
It just feels like someone is watching you, even though you could be in that toilet all by yourself. But it just feels like someone is there.
And on the other side of the coin, when I speak to Americans about it, they don't bat an eyelid. They don't even think about it, you know, because it's just what they've always known. So it's like when you're in Britain, as I said, carry a flask. When you're in America, carry some gaffer tape with you and you can just, you know, put it over that gap.
Also, the bottom of the door is slightly more, there's more gap at the bottom as well.
There is, just in case you have any foot fetishists that want to spy. And just lastly, on toilets, because it's a very important subject, is the depth of the water. Have you noticed that?
we've seen a lot of these like types of videos.
Yeah.
Reactions.
That the toilet water is so high.
It
like,
is.
Why?
Do you,
It is.
do you not get splashage?
Do you know
Is that
what?
a
Like
bad thing to
splashbacks?
ask?
Do you know what? Actually, splashback is far less common with this because...
Really?
Really?
Yeah, because what comes out doesn't have as far to travel, right?
Oh, I suppose.
Oh,
It's
so
like
it's
when you
not-
drop a pebble in the water, just to keep the euphemism going, and
Yes, if you do it
it
high
depends
up.
on the height. The splash will change, and so I
of
got
course.
greater level of splashback, and you can quote me on this, when I lived in the UK. Switching gears, Boxing Day, day after Christmas.
Oh.
A lot of Americans aren't familiar with Boxing Day. Tell us all about Boxing Day. What does it mean to you?
I feel like for Boxing Day, for me personally, I enjoy it more than Christmas because it's like Christmas but relaxed.
Okay.
So like I feel like Christmas Day, you know, growing up anyway, you know, your parents always rushing around, busy, cooking the dinner, all of that. You know, it's great as a kid. And then Boxing Day is the day where you get to play with all your presents. Food's already cooked, you're eating all the leftovers,
Yeah.
you're relaxing, and I just enjoy that more than the hustle and bustle of Christmas Day.
Yeah, my Boxing Day is normally completely different to yours, isn't it? Don't get me wrong, I prefer Christmas because you get presents. Who doesn't prefer the presents? I think Lawrence can probably back me up on that one.
It's what I live for on December 25th, for sure.
Definitely. But the football for me, I absolutely love it. I always, hopefully if we go to a away game, I remember travelling with my dad over the Manchester Pennines to go and watch a game at Bury. Knowing going to watch an away game at Bury, Rotherham versus Bury, you got 500 people there. But it's Boxing Day, you're having a few drinks. It's a great day for me, especially for football.
That's a Hollywood fixture if ever there was one. Yeah.
It was great. We actually won 2-1 as well.
I love Boxing Day too, for the same reason, and as we sort of touched on in the video that we did for your channel, Boxing Day has a lot of similarities, I think, with Thanksgiving, but there's something else that I didn't really mention, and that's that Boxing Day also has a lot of similarities with the day after Thanksgiving, and one of those is you spend the day eating leftover turkey, right? You do that here the day after and the days after as well. But the other thing is the sales, Black Friday sales,
And, yeah.
Boxing Day sales. So one thing about the holidays is that here in this country, and to a lesser extent, I would say, in the UK, we invite family members over to come and share in the food and the festive spirit and all of that. One difference, it seems like, that's come to my attention via yourselves is that here in the US, there's this belief that some Americans will keep their shoes on. I'll just be very interested to hear, because that's not been my personal experience of it, but my own experience doesn't have to be how it is in the wider world. Where did you first hear about that sort of stereotype?
It was YouTube videos, wasn't it? Doing our reactions. And then the comments. Yeah,
Everyone
we never
does
take
it.
our shoes off. We find it rude to take our shoes off, which is fair enough, each to their own.
Yeah.
But
It's such a weird concept for us, that.
It is. The only time I don't take my shoes off if you're at a party, a New Year's Eve party, something like that, at someone's house, and nobody's taking their shoes off. I'm not saying it was everyone, like you said, your experience is that, but the comments were quite in
Mainly,
favour of
yeah.
leave your shoes on.
Very interesting, yeah, because like I said, with the family that I've married into, they're very much pro shoes off. That doesn't mean that it speaks to the entire culture of the United States. The three of us spoke about this a few weeks ago. I looked into it, and you're right. I mean, it just seems like there are some Americans who just sit around in their shoes inside. This is a revelation to me, and I've lived here 14 years.
You must have comfier shoes.
Yes.
Something like that.
No, absolutely. And I think to keep this conversation going, anyone who's watching this who is American and does practice the shoe wearing around, carpets and the like, let us know in the comments below. Also, let us know what kind of shoes you wear.
I'm going to be looking. I'll be looking. I want comfy shoes.
There you go. They might be able to tell you. So to me, that's unusual, and I'll be on the lookout for it next time I'm at somebody's house, and I'll judge them. So
I just think it's weird. It's weird, like in a good and bad way. Like it's just
Exactly.
not what we're used to, is it?
I think that's true of most things, is that, you just sort of learn to embrace the differences. That's at least what I
definitely.
try to do. So speaking of Boxing Day and the holidays and all of that, of course they fall on certain dates of the year, and dates are very much a thing that leave you in a bit of a pickle when you move between the two countries because of the way we write them differently. What's your experience of that? Is it because obviously we live in this sort of global society now where you could interact with Americans on the other side of the pond just from your keyboard. Do you ever get any kind of confusion over the dates that they might write in the way that they write them?
We've had confusion the opposite way round. where I've set up a stream for like, let's say this Saturday. And just to make it clear, I'll put the date in there. And in the comments saying, we're not in that month, we're not in December yet, like what previous it. I'm so like, in my head, because you forget, don't you?
Yeah.
I'm like, what? No, I'm saying 12th of June or whatever. And it's like, what?
Yeah. After the 12th, like the 12th month, I can understand exactly what you're talking about. But it's before that, I don't know what month we're in.
When it clashes.
Yeah, and then I'm like judging myself, like, are we actually in May? What?
Yeah. Similar things have happened to me when I first moved here. I was asked by some entity my date of birth, and I gave it in the British format just through instinct, and they quickly had to correct me that there was no such thing as an 18th month. But one of the other confusing things also sort of pertains to my birthday. Well, it's not so much confusion, it's just a source of regret, because when I lived in the UK, my birthday was a numeric palindrome. In other words, the same backwards as forwards. And then I lost that magic when I moved here. I lost it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think a big one on that is probably all the PO boxes we've received.
Yeah.
And if any legends are watching, thank you so much. But you get the best before dates, the out of dates.
Yeah.
And because there's so much food, it's not like we're just eating it straight away.
No.
We're putting it in a bit of storage. We pull it out a month later. You kind of forget it's
Yeah.
American, and you get confused with the out of date.
And we're not sure if it's what date it's saying.
And Millie's like, oh, this was out of date 3 months ago. We can't have that. No, it's got 3 months left. Literally. And it's that kind of make sure you don't throw any food away because you're getting confused.
Yeah.
So we've got to be really on it for that.
Drug commercials on television. This is a thing, right, that I started to experience after moving to the US. And it's common, right? You'll be watching television in the middle of the day and, it feels like 33% of the ads are about either hospitals or the acquisition of medication. And
That is
that's
mental.
It is, yeah. It's so pervasive in American society to the extent that you not only see it on television, but on many billboards too, as you're driving down the interstate.
Wow.
But that's not really the case in the UK, right? I mean, we do have ads with medicinal content, but it's not quite to the level that it is here, I don't think. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's quite kind of played down.
Definitely. You've got your Gaviscon, stuff
Yeah.
like that for heartburn. But like you say, I think what highlights it the most, like when we watch YouTube videos of American stuff like that, they kind of know the names of all these antibiotics and stuff like that, which I'm guessing is coming from the ads. Whereas if we go to the doctors,
We've got not got a clue what they're giving us.
prescribers, and it's the first time I've seen that word,
Yeah.
or something like that, and I guess that's because of the advertisement.
That could be it, yeah. And the big thing for Brits coming to the US is that we may use some of those same medications back in the UK, but they often actually have different names, whether it's a different brand name or what have you. And so you have to learn a whole new language just in the field of medication. So sometimes when you're watching those ads on TV, it's almost like watching television in a foreign language. But the bombardment of it is very, noticeable.
I do have a question about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think this is coming from like working in education. You're probably familiar with CBBC in Britain. Obviously in the US, I'm sure they have children, young people kind of programs. Do they have these drug commercials like during those?
That's a good question.
You may not know, but
off the top of my head,
I just every week.
off the top of my head, I don't know the answer to that because for one, I don't have kids, but I can almost imagine that they negate those kinds of ads during children's TV shows, just because America's quite big on protecting children, I think, from advertising. It certainly is on YouTube and in the US, and that's because the FCC sort of passed a law limiting the ability to advertise to children.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I would be surprised if those kind of ads were ever targeted to kids. Maybe their parents, for sure. Okay, well, thank you, the Beasleys, for joining me today on my channel. This was a great discussion, guys. And to those of you watching, if you would like to follow the Beasleys and see their reactions to not just my content, but also a wide variety of things, then you should do that. I am going to post the links below, and you should also be seeing the links here on the screen as well. The Beasleys, do you have any parting words?
just thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I've had a ball. I don't know if you
I've had
have.
a great time.
Hopefully you guys enjoy the videos as well. That's the most important thing, isn't it? And yeah, thanks for having us, Lance.
Absolutely.